Good morning. So I asked and my viewers delivered. I did a show yesterday about where are the male victims of sexual harassment, of rape. And boy, did my viewer Jeff come through. He gave me two excellent examples. And it started me on a new topic, actually, which we're going to get to a little later in this show, about another form of male victimization by women. So let's start with the first one, which is definitely a case of a young boy being raped by a woman. Okay? And this comes from Phoenix, Arizona. And it's been in the news. And Jeff shared it with me. A young man who is 24 now is named Nick Olivis. And at 14, he had a sexual encounter with a 20-year-old woman. Now, that is illegal. That woman committed a crime by having sex with him. It's called statutory rape. Now, for some reason, when I read this article, for some bizarre reason, no charges were ever filed. Now, we can remember Mary Kay Letourneau. And if I'm doing my math properly, Nick Olivis was raped after Mary Kay Letourneau was sentenced to 7 years in prison for raping her 14-year-old student and getting pregnant by him. She went to prison. For some reason, this 20-year-old woman, there were never any charges pressed. The young man said that at the time he didn't know he could press charges. He didn't know that a crime had been committed against him. Now, you can ask yourself, where the hell were the police? Where were his parents? And there is really no answer to that in the article that I read. Because if that were my son, you would bet that woman's going to jail. But this story gets more bizarre as it goes on because he tried to put all of this behind him. He graduated high school. He went to college. But when he was 22 years old, he got a summons from the state of Arizona saying that he owed back child support in the amount of $15,000 to the woman who raped him. And oh, by the way, it's a girl. He has a daughter. Now, isn't it convenient, first of all, that this woman, this rapist, didn't tell about the child until the father of the child was an adult and the statute of limitations was up? Because she knew damn well, right, she goes after him for child support while he's still in high school, there's going to be a problem. So this young man, first of all, was sexually assaulted by an adult woman, didn't even realize he was assaulted. Nobody came to his aid. Nobody said this woman needs to be prosecuted. She gets pregnant and 7 years later says, oh, by the way, now you owe me all these years of child support for your daughter, who you've never met and didn't even know existed. And the saddest thing is, this young man, he said, I want to do the right thing, but I shouldn't be held responsible for something I didn't even know I did. As an adult, if I am the father of somebody's baby, yeah, okay, I knew what I was doing, but this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This brings to point the double standard we have for male victims and female victims. Although not so much, because I've talked about that on this show. How there are some lawmakers like Rick Santorum who came out and said if his daughter was raped and got pregnant, he would see that as a blessing from something horrific that happened. There are some lawmakers that believe that a female victim of rape should be denied her right to an abortion. And that the female victim of a rape would have to share visitation of her child with the rapist's family, tying them together for life because the family didn't do anything wrong. So this is a double standard right there, is that, again, a female rape victim would probably not be forced to pay child support to her rapist, but a male rape victim is forced to pay child support to his rapist. Just as some male lawmakers, and some females too, sadly, would like Carly Fiorina and Sarah Palin, would like to make abortion illegal and force rape victims to give birth to their attackers, their monsters, children. Very sad. It's a very sad situation. The case is, I believe, still being disputed, but as of now, they're saying he owes this money. This young man owes $15,000 to a woman who raped him when he was 14 years old to pay to support a child he's never met. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing this story. I am shocked by it. It is a double standard, and shame on the police and the parents of this young boy who did not insist that this woman be prosecuted for what she did to their son. And I hope that they fight this, and I hope that at the end of the day, first of all, we have a young child being raised by a pedophile, by a rapist, who likes having sex with little boys. That's kind of scary. And second of all, we have this manipulative bitch woman once again raping this boy all over again. This time she's raping him financially. And it's wrong. Now we come to another story. And this is awesome. And it was also shared by my viewer, Jeff. And I thank you so much. You really gave me a whole show for a Friday. It's awesome. This is the case of Dubé v. Wells. Now, there is something that we don't understand in this country, and it is that women who say, oh, we're victims, we get sexually harassed, people touch us when we don't want them to, we get raped, we get all this, blah, blah, blah. But women have so much power, and this is how much power they have, is they are the only ones who get to choose if and when they get pregnant, and if they keep the baby. And the father of their children have to go along. Well, there has been some talk about this. It's a big debate right now. And this comes from an article that Jeff shared with me, written by an Australian woman. This was the U.S. case of Dubé v. Wells, where this guy was dating a girl. He specifically told her he did not want children. And after they broke up, she found out she was pregnant. Isn't that a coincidence? And she sued him for child support. And I want to read the quote from the judge who heard the case, because this man lost. He's got to pay child support for a kid he made very clear he didn't want. So here's the conclusion from the judge. The judge chastised Dubé, the man, saying its chivalry is not dead, its viability is gravely imperiled by the plaintiff, the man, Dubé. Chivalry. Interesting. Mel Felt, who is the director of the National Center for Men in the United States, said women now have control over their lives after unplanned conception, but men are routinely forced to give up control, forced to be financially responsible for choices only women are allowed to make. That's interesting, isn't it? This belief that a woman's decision to have a child should never be questioned. There is this attitude that women don't have to consider the practicality of having a child because it's the man's job to provide for his family. Think about that. We live in this world where women are saying we want to serve in the military. We can do any job any man can do, and we can do it better. We are feminists. We want equal pay. We want equal opportunities. We want to be doctors. We want to be generals in the military. But when it comes to children, Run to baby daddy to support your ass. And let's make no mistake about this. There are women out there who get pregnant on purpose. I suggest to every man out there who does not want to be a daddy, ever, have a vasectomy. It's easy, very little risk. Then you don't got to worry about it anymore. And please, 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 even if your girlfriend says she's taking birth control, use a condom every time. Because there are still women in this world that believe that the way to get a man to be hers forever is to have his baby. And yeah, they are manipulative. And the men are victims. Believe me, I know this personally. I know that the one way a woman who thinks her husband is about to divorce her can get him to stay is to end up pregnant. Or the way an ex-wife can try to control her ex-husband is to all of a sudden come up with this baby they had together that he never knew about. Even if she's lying, it makes a man think, well, do I have a child out there? Women are not innocent little victims like some claim to be. I do find it abhorrent that some men say, well, birth control is a woman's responsibility. No, it's not. I, for one, always believe that if I'm dating a man or I'm in a relationship, a very serious one, that the man should pay for the birth control. Because I wouldn't need the birth control if I weren't having sex with this man. And I am kind of old school about the fact that a man should support his family if he agrees to have one. And that's what we're talking about today. You all know I'm very old-fashioned. I think it's wonderful when a man and a woman get married and choose to have children, and they work it out so the woman can stay home and take care of her family and take care of the kids, and the man goes out to work. I love that. I'm old school that way, but it doesn't happen anymore. It's not financially feasible for most couples today. And we have this other issue with new age relationships that people aren't getting married. They are not becoming husband and wife with that vow and that unity and that obligation to take care of one another till death do us part. Instead, they're just going out there having sex and getting pregnant, and then there's this big brouhaha of, well, if we break up, it's not my problem, you wanted to have a kid. That's wrong too. And you know who always suffers? It's the children. It is the children. But there's this new thing about financial abortion. It's called financial abortion. Put your thumbs away. It doesn't mean the woman's having an abortion. It means that any man whose girlfriend or even wife says, baby, I'm pregnant, yay, and he says, wait a minute, I told you I didn't want kids. That man can sign papers and basically divorce his child and say, I'm not going to pay for the child. I don't want to see the child. I never wanted to become a father in the first place. You knew this, and I'm out. And I think men should have that right. Why should a man be forced into fatherhood if he makes it clear he doesn't want to be a father? When my husband and I met, we discussed children early in our relationship. And I let my husband know that the one thing I would not do is have children. I did not want children. And I let my husband know if he didn't agree with that, we're done. We used birth control like it was a religion. If the birth control failed, I let my husband know I was having an abortion and that he would sign off on it. And if he wasn't willing to do that, we were done. We're going to walk away. We're going to disagree. Now, luckily, the birth control worked, and we never had to make that decision. But I made it clear, as the woman, I didn't want to have children. I didn't want to be pregnant. And my husband agreed. That's why we have such a happy marriage. Not always, again, do people really agree. Some women will say anything a man wants to hear to have a relationship with that man. Some women will pretend that they're taking the birth control pill. And you guys, watch her take the damn pill. Look at the label. Make sure it's really a birth control pill. You have to protect yourselves. Because as much as we hear every day on the news that women are victims, men are victims too. Nowhere more so than being forced to be a father when they have been very vehement of the fact that they don't want to be. And there's nothing worse for a child than to be raised by someone who doesn't want them, who never wanted them, who resents their existence in this world. There's another quote I have from you from the author of the article. She says, society needs to stop infantilizing women. Very true. Women are responsible for their own choices and actions. And a pregnancy is not a magical blessing. It is a biological consequence. And that's very, very true. It is completely true. Two very good articles. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah. Women knowingly have sexual relationships with men, consensual sexual relationships, and the consequence of that is pregnancy unless you do everything you can to avoid it. Using birth control, using it properly, and talking to each other. What will we do if the birth control fails? I had birth control fail in 1990. I was on the pill, and I got pregnant, and I had an ectopic pregnancy, and I almost died. I didn't want to be pregnant. I certainly didn't want to be pregnant to the person I got pregnant to. We weren't going to get married and have a happily ever after life. So birth control can fail, and you have to make decisions and plans for what you will do if your birth control fails. It doesn't mean that you can't have sex, because sex is something we do for pleasure. Unlike some on the religious right that say the only reason you should be having sex is to make babies. Well, sorry, it's 2017. People have sex because it's fun. Just letting you know. But I don't believe that the most important job anyone will ever do, which is becoming a parent, should be forced on anyone. It should not be forced on a rape victim, male or female. It should not be forced financially on a man just because he's the man. And he said, I don't want kids, and the woman said, I don't care, I want a baby with you. Well, then that's on her. And I think it's time, like I said the other day, that churches should be living, breathing things that change with the times. I also believe that this situation should be a living, breathing thing that changes with the times. As more people are not marrying the people they're having sexual relations with, I think we need to talk more, and I think that there should be an out for a man who is manipulated into becoming a daddy when he doesn't want to. And again, we need to remember, as far as the case of this young man who was molested and raped at the age of 14, we think about our girls. I have always said on this show that if I had a daughter, the day she got her menstrual cycle, I would put her on birth control. Not because I think she's a promiscuous little slut, but because I would want to protect her in case, God forbid, she was raped or molested. I would want to protect her at least from an unwanted pregnancy at a young age. And girls at 9 years old are getting pregnant. But what do we do for our boys? When we think of a boy being molested, we think of a man molesting our boy, like the Catholic priests. But that's not always the case. Women molest young boys, and that's a problem. And there's no way to protect your young boys, because while they are not mature enough to have consensual sex and to have a true sexual relationship, their bodies are biologically able to make babies. And we need to really talk about this, and I can't wait to hear the comments on this show. How do we protect our boys? Not just from the pedophiles out there who are going to sexually molest them in a different way, but what about the women out there who for some reason gravitate toward little boys? I don't understand it. But there are women out there who want to have sex with little boys. We can't count on a criminal, on a monster rapist female to use birth control. And our young boys don't know what's going on anyway. They're not going to take the time to put on a condom. So it's a discussion I hope that we do have. I ended up thinking that the show yesterday was going to be kind of lame because most people joked when I talked about men being victims. Well, within an hour of doing yesterday's show, I had these two stories in my inbox, on my timeline. Right there. 2 male victims, actually 3, the Dubé and Wells case. So yeah, men can be victimized by women, and women can be as evil and manipulative and monstrous as a male predator. Never forget that. And let's show some love to our boys. Let's teach them to be careful. And let's also teach them to report any kind of conduct, like what happened to this young boy in Arizona, that he is probably going to pay for the rest of his life because he was a victim. And his attacker, his rapist, was never charged, tried, and convicted as she should have been. Can't wait to hear your comments. Have a good weekend, everybody. This is a special edition for Friday for Political Paula. I will see you all back here on Tuesday. Political Paula is out.